Welcome to the CEO Pulse podcast. I am super excited today. We have one of my biggest role models, my mentor, Al Fuentes, with us, and this is such an honor, man. I've been working with you, or we've been working together for the last couple of years, and I mean the impact that you've had with what you do at a personal level, it's unmeasurable. So thank you very much for coming over, man. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome, brother. I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah. So again, we have Al Fuentes, and you're a mental coach. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what you do. The way that you describe it is a personal trainer for the brain, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your story, how you came about, and I mean, was it something that just kind of you transitioned into, or something natural? Were you brought up this way, or do you come from a completely different background and into this space that you're in now?
Well, I would say a couple of components to it come from a long history. First and foremost, I did my first paid motivational speech to 300 people back in 1993. Mm-hmm. I was a kid still at the time. I just went off to college, and my school wanted to bring me back and inspire the other kids, because I had some pretty big accomplishments and got a full ride scholarship for track and wrestling to college, and it was a pretty big deal for me, and apparently they thought it was too, and they felt like, coming from where I came from and able to do what I did, I could inspire some kids. I can't tell you how that engagement went. I think they liked it. I don't even remember, because it's kind of like a blur to me. So I don't know. I'm sure it wasn't the best, especially knowing what I know now, just because of a lot of ego involved and a lot of, telling some kind of negative story. But that was my first motivational speech, which was a part of kind of a way of life for me. Mm-hmm. And from then I did a lot of peer counseling and academic tutoring and different things. And I did have some level of connection. I wasn't aware of it at the time, but hindsight always would tell me that, because I was an RA in charge of a floor of a dorm, and a head resident also for a certain amount of time. And kids would come to you and they'd talk to you, and you got counseling training, because you had to be able to handle the kids that had problems, on some level. And I remember sharing advice with kids and literally out loud going, "Oh, where did that come from?" Because there'd be these things I would say, and it was pretty magical, and it was a really unique time, but I didn't know the word spirituality at the time. I definitely didn't think of anything bigger than me. I was just a simple kid, just living a simple life. So that was one thing that I truly believe was a part of the bigger story where I'm at today. The other piece of it was being an athlete back then. This is when I was even younger, so it was probably early 90s, if not 89. I went to one wrestling camp my entire life, and this one dude was like, I looked up to him. He wrestled at Ohio State, and he talked about his heart rate and being in good shape. And so I measured my in-shapeness, if you will. I measured my cardio based on my heart rate. And so my goal was to get my heart rate as low as possible. He said his was at 45, so I at least wanted to hit 45.
That's insane, yeah.
As a resting heart rate. So I'm like, okay, cool, got a target. As I trained, as I worked, one of the fundamental pieces just inherently I knew was breathing. Of course, back then, early 90s, and being a kid and not having any resources, it's not like there's home computers at that time. Mm-hmm. And there's definitely really no internet at that time. And so it's not like I could research a bunch of things. And I wasn't educated enough to go to the library and pick out any books on this stuff. So I was on my own. I just figured I had to breathe. And so I kind of started doing some breathing techniques that I was making up as I went. And they were slow breaths in and holding and slow breaths out, just to kind of get my heart rate. Little did I know then that I was exercising my VO2 max, and I was doing some very cool spiritual things that I wasn't aware of. But it did what I wanted to do. It got my heart rate really low. I got in really good shape and went off to college, did very well as an athlete, and had a lot of pain and suffering along the way. That's kind of the mantra I live by, was pain and suffering, as, building the character of life. So again, not super conscious, even in my way of being. I just had I put up a lot of walls. Everyone was an enemy, and I was a fighter. And even my own wrestling team, everyone else, I was kind of honestly not a good guy back then. Judgmental, arrogant, whatever. It's okay, because we're human, and I didn't know any better. However, I went a big chunk of time between then, which would have been like 98 is when I went to college. And for the 5 years that I was there, by choice, I could have graduated in 4, but I had a redshirt year for my knee, so I took an extra year. I was doing some stuff, but I was still suffering a lot. And then after I graduated, I was probably 22 at the time, for the next 8 years, I was in a lot of suffering and pain. I had some physical issues went on, broke a back, had completely disintegrated L5S1, divorces, financial restarts because of divorces and other things. And I was struggling, dude. And the life that I had built, needing to have enemies and needing to have a battle to win, because I was a wrestler and that's how you win. And I watched I forget the name of the big wrestling movie back in the day that was like the movie. Anyway, it has this big enemy and you gotta defeat the enemy. So that was my mantra. And sure enough, I made that come true. And up until I was 30, it was all battle, all fight, all struggle. And all that battle and fight and struggle came with this experience of life and building character, and God can't give you what you can't handle. Again, nothing other than that. And I was still arrogant and judgmental and just not a nice guy.
So was it? I mean, it sounds like you were you fell into a stage and this happens to a lot of entrepreneurs as we go through the journey, right? But it's almost falling into adopting a persona of being a victim about everything that's around us. Is that something that was relatable to that, where pretty much you're kind of swimming upstream and taking everything as expecting everything to come at you in the wrong way, so you can battle it out and.
Yeah, I mean, there's some victimness in there for sure, but I was too busy fighting to think I was a victim too much. But yes, you're right. Like expecting there to be a battle and expecting to have to swim upstream and expecting everything to be a fight. So of course, that's exactly what it was. When I was 30, though, I had opportunity to meet this beautiful person in my life, and I went for this reading. Not something I ever done before, not really something I was ever exposed to, but my girlfriend at the time was like, hey, you open to doing a reading? Like, sure. I don't not believe in that stuff. I don't necessarily believe in it. And that was kind of the first experience that opened my eyes to something bigger, because she was telling me things about myself without me saying a word. And you know what that feels like now.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I was like, what? How does this person know this? This person, I had to drive an hour and a half to meet her. There's no way she could look me up. There was really nothing to do. And there was nothing that made sense about this other than she was connected to something big. And I didn't know what it was. But you see things in movies and you start stringing together the possibilities, but then it's also the movie, so you don't really believe any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But when I experienced it in real life, I didn't disqualify any of it. I'm like, I was in. Like, this is real. It's undeniable. It's not like I didn't try to dismiss it in any way. I was in. I'm like, whatever she says for me to do, I'm going to do it. I don't care what it is. So she was like, hey, you should really take a Reiki class. I'm like, sure, I'm in. When? Now? That's how
Sign me up, man.
Yeah, because you know that mentality. It's like,
Yeah.
And that was the start of it for me. So I do a Reiki class at her house, and I figured out what Reiki was. And for people who don't know, Reiki is just energy work, and it's the word is Japanese, and Rei means life force, and Ki means energy. Much like Qi in Chinese, Ki is the Japanese form of it. But really, it's just energy. It's no different than the energy we use to recover and heal every night we go to bed. We're tired when we go to bed. We use energy when we heal and recover. That's that energy that we're channeling into our body passively as we sleep. Well, come to find out, Reiki gives you some tools and techniques to channel energy actively, which is a really cool thing. So that was what I started with, and so I was Reikiing everything at the time. I mean, anything and everything. I'd Reiki a pencil, a light bulb, I'd Reiki all the stuff. It was really a lot of fun. Right, speaking of light bulbs, I know it went off.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And then I picked up a book, and it was a simple book. In the book, you'd read a chapter, you'd do the exercise at the end, and it was a cool book. It was a creating money book, and that was two things that were important to me, which was figuring out my life and creating money. And so that was the catalyst. And for the next 2 years, I just dove deep into my own self-energy work, and I did work with other people, but it just grew my connection, grew my channel, if you will, upward. And then the book allowed me to start to reconstruct some of my mental human frameworks. And that's how I started down this path. And after 2 years, and I picked up a couple of books of the same author, Living with Joy and Personal Power of Awareness, 3 books that were pretty cool in my development.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not well read. Those are really only, I mean, I was 30 when I actually read my first book ever.
Mm.
And, you know, I graduated summa cum laude from college. I was a really good student, but not because I read, because I didn't. I memorized everything, and I went to every lecture. I never missed a class, and I would just listen, absorb, and I could recall everything in my head. But reading was tough for me, because being ADD and dyslexic, it was never something that I could do very well. It was so much work to try to read and retain, and I just couldn't do it. But once I started doing this energy work, it fixed a lot of that stuff in my brain, including dyslexia. And so now I could actually read, which was really cool. So I read my first book when I was 30, and I was fortunate to be not super exposed to a lot of content out there,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be, you know, Think and Grow Rich or any of the other books, or I just it never was an interest to me. I really found as much information as I could going in and going up, which meant I was kind of untainted and unfamiliar with the spiritual space and unfamiliar with kind of what everyone else was saying. I was kind of living by my own understandings, which mean I had to figure out a lot of things on my own. And that was the best thing for me at the time. And so after 2 years of doing this, my life had changed, and people were like, yo, what are you doing? You completely changed everything. What's your secret? I didn't know what to tell them. I didn't have an answer. So I go from this messed up life in every category. Physical container was messed up, financial container was messed up, relationship container was messed up. My humanness was just really thick and heavy and not high vibrational. There wasn't much to my life at that time that looked nice or shiny at all. On the surface, I knew how to talk positive or act positive and whatever, because I mean, I'd been inspiring people for a long time, or at least I thought I was. But none of it was at my truth. And so when I changed and I understood things on a deeper level, I didn't know how to share it. I was in finances. I was doing loans at the time. I was not trying to be a coach. I wasn't trying to be some motivational speaker. I was just trying to survive and fix my life because it was a mess. And after 2 years, when people asked me, I just said, you know what? I want to see if I can figure this out. I want to see if I can learn what was the secret sauce behind what I did. So I kind of did a lot of meditating and kind of listened for answers. And so what came out was a cool system, a cool process, all based in science, not spirituality at all, which you would think with the path I took, it would be all these beautiful spiritual wisdoms and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't. The universe was like, hey, we're going to give you the science space, and that's it. And you heard Brent, I mean, he's like, oh, you were the breathing coach back then.
Yeah.
Science-wise, I can back everything I do from a spiritual standpoint based on science, because how I started was with the universe giving me all the science behind what I do. And so I started there, and I started working with people, connecting them to their higher selves, connecting to this bigger construct, all through science. And it was front brain versus back brain. It was through breathing. It was through brain training. It was through all these things, which is why when I started being a mental coach back then, I wasn't a life coach. Mental coach wasn't even a word back then. I made that up. Back in, I guess that would have been 2007, was when I actually started working with people. 2005 is when I personally started. I never heard that word before, mental coach. It really wasn't a thing back then. And I could have pulled it out of thin air. Maybe some other people were randomly using it, but it certainly wasn't widespread. The point is it was my own little creation, and I separated myself because I did call myself a personal trainer for the brain, because I realized that we can train the brain. It's exercisable. You can use it. You can do a workout and actually change how your brain thinks. And one of the things that I did is I connected to the back brain. I connected to the same energy that you connect to when you sleep in theta and delta frequencies. And we started to work on tapping into that frequency level to generate energy while you were conscious, to rewire how you thought. And most people, when you ask them, hey, what would you like to change about yourself? They'll be like, oh, this is a problem, that's a problem, this is a thing, that's a thing. And so they'll be like, I know what I need to change. I just don't know how to do it. And this system gave people the how-to change. For most people already knew what to change, and this gave them the how-to. And so
And I can speak from experience. You've been my mentor in that space for years now, and I'll never grow tired of being a walking testimony of what you do. It's to me, your approach has taught me, first off, how to manage my emotional intelligence, which is one thing, right? But I come from you kept mentioning the word the humanness and the universal side. So to me it was a foreign concept before we started talking, before we kind of put it on the table and opened it up. And after time, it's the reality. It's the reality that I live in. But there is truth in that, a lot of truth in that, in being that we can operate from a humanness space, and that humanness space is limited by by certain things. It's limited by beliefs, limited by our classical conditioning. It's limited by what we can think is possible just based off everything that's around me. And then there's this other side that you more often see in the movies, where things do get manifested, where things happen and they're magical, and then they're just kind of like urban legend type of stuff. But you come about it at least in my experience, in a way that I could understand. I'm super pragmatic. I gotta see something be tangible, like this is a light bulb. I can hold this in my hand right here. And it exists, and I see it, and I feel it, and I touch it, and I can put it back in there, which I think is pretty cool, and it floats. But it's if I don't see that, I'm not gonna believe it's there.
Right.
And you were able to do that for me. So for me to understand what the humanness side of the thought process creates versus what the universal truth of life and what it can be, it just consolidates everything on I think on both hemispheres of the brain, and just magic happens when I see the world that way.
Yeah.
And it's been like a tug of war. 'Cause I'm stubborn as hell, and it's a tug of war between okay, cool. I feel I'm in a space of euphoria some days on energy, and then I'll come back with something that's super human and basic, and something that's I feel like it's dragging me down or just breaking me down. I'm like, bro, you're back at square one. So it is definitely a training, a consistent training of the brain, and your approach. I've never seen anything quite like it, and everything from just the context of how you come about to, and take me on a walk of self-discovery, because that's what it is. I don't think I recall any situation where you're actually telling me what to do. Like it's a process of self-discovery, and you're empowering me to do that. And then from that space, you back it up with breathing techniques and the pragmatic stuff that I needed to process my personality, and then create this change. But that change it's been a game changer at so many levels, on personal level, professional level, and just the first off. And we just had a session 20 minutes ago, and the energy that I was feeling right at that point was incredible. And carrying that over, you feel like you're almost in a different body. And just having that the ability to tap into it, which is what you're doing with me and a lot of other clients, it's one of the things that people talk about the least, and I think it should be pushed to the forefront.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a really good point, and essentially why I started science when I first started out, just to a surprise to myself, because I thought they were going to give me some really cool spiritual thing. This universal construct can really be boiled down into science. And there are things within this beautiful thing we're meant to believe out there that already exist inside of us. And one of the biggest messages that I've ever gotten, and it'll never lose me, is that this is just a simple thing. It doesn't have to be mystical. It doesn't have to be complicated. And there's a lot of people that want to complicate this. I don't even have a name for my system, because I didn't even want to give it some kind of branding. I started off like as with my coaching, and I still own it, and I actually have it trademarked and everything, but a Mental Champ So Mental Champ, that actually I own that trademark and of the words. So it's pretty cool. And so I started off with this branding and stuff, and it was more athlete and high-level elite business driven, which was great. But the more I realized, all this stuff is really simple, and this power of what we can do with ourselves is simple. How we navigate our own human existence is very simple. It's not about knowing the universe or knowing spirit or knowing. Now, if you do and you want to associate whatever religious beliefs you want to this work, great. That's for you. But you don't have to actually have religious beliefs to do this work. You don't have to be spiritual to do this work. And one of the frameworks to this is you don't have to go sit on a mountain and meditate for hours. You don't have to dedicate yourself to some life of charity. You can be anyone, anywhere, anytime. The street sweeper, the lawyer, the assistant, the doctor, or a truck driver. And I've worked with all kinds of people on this. And these are all kinds of people that I've worked with. You can just be a mom or a dad. It doesn't matter who it is. This is not reserved for anyone. If you have a brain and you have a body, you can comprehend this stuff. And the universe has always given it to me simple, without argument. A perfect example is the breath. When you breathe in, you're breathing in something outside of you. Mm-hmm. You know you're breathing it in because it keeps you alive. You hold your breath for long enough, you can feel that you got problems. Yeah. And if you go underwater long enough, you know there's trouble. But you can't argue it. There's something outside of us that we take in. Oxygen is what science says it is, which is fine. Let's just go with oxygen. You can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it, and yet you never question it. I don't come into this room with an oxygen meter. We don't go places and measure the oxygen. We're not concerned if there's 10 people in a grocery store that there might be not enough oxygen here for me to breathe. We have a perfect trust in something outside of us that we can't smell, taste, see, or hear. And we just know in this perfect trust, and this something is there for us. Sounds a lot like religion, but we're just talking about oxygen. And the universe made it that simple. I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Now, taking one step further, when you breathe into the body, you don't go, oh, can we stop for a second? I got to make sure this oxygen gets to my toes. We don't do this. We just breathe.
I have to disperse this oxygen.
I need to get it to where it goes. We don't even think most of the time about our breath. It just happens automatically. We have this perfect trust inside of us. We trust our lungs to take it where it needs to go. We trust our body to do with what it needs. This body has an infinite wisdom, and we perfectly trust it. So in one breath in, we have perfect trust in something outside of us and something inside of us. And yet we live a life, most humans live a life not in trust, right? Because we don't want to believe, whether we're afraid of the drive, or we're afraid that this thing's not going to happen or that thing's not going to happen. We're afraid of our job because of a pandemic or whatever else it is. Well, most humans will self-admit that they don't have a super high level of trust. But what's weird is you're built with perfect trust, and yet we don't live in it. It's crazy, but it's true. When you breathe out, you let go of all the air you no longer need. You've used up all the oxygen, well, most of it, and you breathe out the stuff you no longer need. And it's a beautiful thing. So then you can take more in of what you want. You let go of what you don't need anymore, and you take in what you want. You're a master at letting go. And yet, that guy that cut us off earlier today, I'm still bothered by that. Or something my wife said last night, it's still bothering me. Or my husband, or whoever else it is, you feeling like you can't let go of, someone who looked at you, or something from your past, an ex relationship, or some fear because you lost a bunch of money back in the day. You can't let it go, and you're always going to live now in this money fear. It's pretty normal, just like it's normal not to really be in a great level of trust, because that's humanness. We are beautiful human creatures, and we are tied to this human construct, and I'll talk more about that. But that human construct has something that we can counter, and it's counterable, and it's already built within us. You don't need to be spiritual. You don't need to believe in anyone. Again, if you do, great, you pull that in with your breath, that's fine. You go up and pray, you meet your beautiful faith wherever it's at, that's awesome. But if you don't, an atheist can't argue this breath concept.
Yeah.
They can't, it's just science.
It's universal, yeah.
It's universal. So you already have the keys to enlightenment. Because if you can walk with perfect trust and let go of anything that doesn't serve you, dude, you're like guru level, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I know this, but do I live in that? No. Why? Because I'm human. We're all human. But man, is it my journey? It's my beautiful work to walk towards as much perfect trust as I can have and as much letting go of things that don't serve me as I can. And that is as simple as the path to enlightenment has to be. I've just blown out every coach, including myself. You don't need me. You don't need anyone else. If all you do is work on learning the trust that's already within you, that you already have, it's already proven that you have it because you don't question the oxygen and you don't ever hesitate on letting the air out. You're a perfect master of letting go and you're a perfect master of trust. But your humanness says differently, and all our job is now to work on this truth that's already there and grow it and get the humanness smaller. And if we just did that, you can do it without a coach because you already know it, and you just close your eyes and you work every day at working on this perfect trust, you will be on the most amazing path to enlightenment without ever reading a book, without ever needing a teacher except your own breath, and without ever needing any support. Now, it's nice for people to get support who feel like they need it, or encouragement or motivation or even accountability. That's fine. But we don't need it. That's how simple this journey really is. And for me, and I tell all my people, that like you don't need me. You have everything you need. I'm happy to hold space for you and show you these same things, but you got to do the workout. Just like that's why I say I'm a personal trainer. Like I'll design the program, but you still got to lift the weights.
Right.
If you don't lift the weights, you're not changing, and you've lifted the weights, and so you have changed a ton and in the most amazing ways. So now you're at this next level self that's really, really cool, and I'm so excited to see this next piece. So what were you going to say?
And I just want to throw it out there that every time, if you put in the work, if you put in, I used to talk about this my mantra was embrace the grind. So never getting out of the fucking grind, and it's it's a beautiful thing because you learn lessons through it. There's a certain degree of growth. But when thanks to our sessions, when I started shifting, and it took me
You wrestled with that a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's taken me a lot of work to switch from that mentality to a mentality of flow, a mentality of creating, a mentality of bringing stuff to me, and being in a space of where I can. I don't want to say manifest, on demand, because it's not the case, but I'm in a space where we're just, things start to happen and they start to kind of occur around my world.
Yeah.
And it was not the case when I was just, thinking about the grind. And I think the biggest catalyst for that has been a shift in my energy. A shift in how I connect with people. When even when I walk into a room, I feel I feel that that energy in the room, and then I'll feel mine kind of connect to it, and it sounds out there. And if you're in the audience and this is something that you haven't looked into, that you haven't really tapped into meditation and connecting with that space, it may be out there. But in my experience, it's really been one of the biggest changes, and that's catapulted me to another level, at a personal level, at a mindset level.
Yeah. Well, let's make it so it's not out there.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation is a word.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's a word. Doesn't mean anything unless you want it to mean something.
Right.
And if it's something that doesn't feel comfortable, no problem. But let's really talk about the science about what you can do to change your mental construct. And whether you use the word meditation or not is irrelevant. Let's just talk about the science. Our front brain is really designed to handle simple in and output. Like if you're hearing thoughts, feelings, and emotions, you're aware of that. The spatial awareness to this table, constructs, things that are happening in the world, that's like kind of the entry point, front brain. But what's supposed to happen is then it all gets then put to the back brain, and the back brain then handles the bulk of the processing of what you just took in. And the back brain then uses elevated wisdom of all your experiences, of how far you've come in life, of all the things you've done, and it's supposed to use that plus creativity of problem solving, things like that, which is a bigger open-ended mindset. Not spiritual, not magic, not meditation, just back brain processing of what came through the front of the brain. But humans have gotten so far away from using their back brain as a part of this process that what happens is it all comes to the front brain. It stops at the front brain, and we try to use the small processor that's in the front brain to handle what's coming to us today. And if it's a challenging deal, if it's a problem with the relationship, it all stays right here. We forget about our journey. We forget about all of our wisdom. We forget about any other kind of constructs of open-mindedness to solve creatively things in front of us. We think input pain, out pain, you're wrong, I can't believe this, or oh my gosh, everything's falling apart, or whatever else it is. And this is the human construct. The human construct lives from the front brain outward into the world around us. And what we do when we wake up, typically, we live in the human construct. We decide, well, how did I sleep? Based on how I slept, I decide if I'm having a good day or a bad day. Well, what's going on in the news? Based on what's going on in the news. Based on if we still in a pandemic or not, or is this still happening? We take data from the outside world, we bring it to the front brain, we take the current condition of the front brain, and this is what decides happiness, joy, or fear, doubt, worry, or pain and suffering. And guess what most of the frequency is going to be? Fear, doubt, worry, pain, suffering, struggle. Why? Because that's just normal. There's more of that out there, even in the news. I mean, that's an obvious one. But in energy and in life right now, and typically most times, it's just really more aware now. And then any power, any relief, any happiness or joy, it's in going to our job, believe it or not, or it's in the exercise at the gym, it's in the things that we get to do, the socializing, the dinners, the romancing of all these other things. Well, now those are out of the equation. And people are struggling because they don't have the outlet of the gym to free them in whatever way. And they don't have the outlet of socializing or happy hours or the things that they used to do. There's all these things. And all that really was, anyway, was trying to use the outside world to be your happiness, to be your answer. There's no different. It was just this external. Then that all still sits in the front brain. And since those are gone, then it's a lot of people, just out of place. So what do we got to do to fix this? Well, we got to get the back brain processing more of what's going on in front of us. I use what I call brain training or visualization work because to me, for most people in the general public, they think of meditation as more like flowing streams and butterflies and rainbows still to this day, or no thought. Meditation is no thought, or some other spiritual tie to meditation. And so sure, they can have that, but that's not what I use. I use brain training or visualization work. And that specifically is a mental workout that puts your brain into a state of activating the back of the brain, and more specifically in the exact thoughts and feelings you want to have. And if we can exercise that, it's like if I want bigger biceps, I got to do some level of curls or pull-ups or something. If I do squats, I'm not getting bigger biceps just because I do squats. I got to work that muscle. So if I want to be happy, and I want to be happy in this construct, I got to exercise that muscle. And I do it through a construct of training the front brain, the back brain. And if I want to look at the things that I'm dealing with and learn how to take them from the front brain to the back brain, then I got to stop, breathe, feel the body, open up the back brain, and that's what this system does. And then look at the things that are in the front brain and work on exercising the back brain to process them. You can't get around it. It just doesn't happen otherwise. And so for me, visualization work or brain training is a very simple science of exercising the back brain and training yourself both in thought and feeling, and training the back brain to process the stuff in the front brain so that the front brain can be released of the heavy load. That means headaches, migraines go away. That means tightness in the neck goes away. That means you can think clearer. You're more creative. You're more able to process what's in front of you. The world's not so big in front of you anymore. You're bigger now because you're now using a bigger faculty to process the world. And this isn't spiritual. This is simple science. And so the universe showed me all this stuff. Now, we can make this all spiritual too, by the way. I mean, it's really fun. But it doesn't have to be. And it doesn't have to be complicated. If you just do this, even if it's on your own, trying to figure it out on your own, you believe it or not, you have more of an ability to do this. Now, that's the work we've done. And we've used the practical life. We've used your everyday life in front of you to do that. And the grind is constructs of the front brain, the constructs of humanness, because everything out there is about that. I lived in that world.
What I feel that, at least, in my case, what I feel that we've been able to do is to kind of tap into, make a connection between the conscious thought process and then the subconscious. And I think, I don't know, that's what you mean by front brain and back brain, right?
100%. So, the conscious and the subconscious.
And sure. So just linking that connection, bringing the awareness, one, that it was weak in the first place because I was doing everything just with conscious thought, and I wasn't letting anything, kind of go beyond that. I feel like I was missing out on 80%, if not more, of what my capability is energetically. But just the way of looking at things, the way of approaching problems, the way that I was living in my space previously is so much different than where I'm at now. And it sounds silly, but I feel like I'm not by myself. Mm-hmm. So me being by myself, feeling like there's no no help, I can't reach out to anybody. That's me and operating from a conscious space, right? But now I talked about the example yesterday or a couple of days ago. I was sitting with a problem and I was thinking about, okay, what do I need to do to fix this thing? And I kind of went over it, and I started getting tired. My awareness wasn't there. I used to have that bad habit of beating a problem like a dead horse and not moving away from it until I figured out a shitty solution for it.
Right.
And the outcome wasn't stellar. It wasn't there. But I've gotten better with that. And now, for example, what I did there was like, all right, I'm gonna stop thinking about it. I've done enough with my conscious brain, with my the front space of my brain, and then I'm gonna let it sit, and then something will pop up. It'll come to me, and I think it's like the clearest example that I can give of having your subconscious kick in and then give you a solution for the problem.
Yeah. And this happens when you sleep, by the way. Mm-hmm. A lot of people who will have things they're trying to solve, they'll wake up in the middle of the night or they'll wake up the next morning with answers. It's because they've allowed their back brain to kind of work through the solutions. The back brain has such a bigger faculty and ability to problem solve. And so if we start exercising that back brain to help with the solution, it creates a lot of really cool reality. But essentially, the humanness is important. And one of the other challenges with people, not just meditation and how do you do it, and we've eliminated that. It's just really simple exercise, and there's a scientific reason for it. And it's not just like, well, what does spirituality mean? What does enlightenment mean? Well, that's pretty simple because we threw that out of the window because you have perfect trust. Can't argue it because you don't ever carry an oxygen meter around, and you're a master at letting go. Can't argue that because you breathe out every time. So we got some stuff to work with there that are practical, real things that are already built inside you. You don't need a coach to learn those things. They're already there, but you just got to work at really owning it. That's a different story. And you can still do that on your own. But what about this humanness? Like, oh, well, I don't want to lose who I am. I don't want to, and that was one of your things too.
Yeah.
You didn't want to lose who you were, but listen.
I had a misconception about that. I mean, that's where I was standing, I think.
Yeah, but that's okay. We're going to be human. There is not something you do here where all of a sudden you become this beautiful, like everything's roses and rainbows and butterflies and life is just happy. Oh, you smacked me? It's okay. I love you anyway. And there is a misconception there too. Like everything's just this perfect magical world. That's never going to be the case because there's always going to be a human component to us. And that human construct, which is in the front brain and in what it's outside of us. And there's one other piece. It's kind of the journey we've been on and how we've interpreted someone pushing us on the playground. And that's caused some level of pain. And we add that to the pain pile. And, feeling like maybe you got a divorce or someone cheated on you or maybe you lost your business or whatever other traumas or tragedies. We add those to the pile. And that becomes a part of what fuels fear, doubt, worry, what fuels the front brain, worriness, heaviness, whatever it is. So, and it does, and that's okay. But the human construct is always going to be a part of our life. You're never going to get to this place of some peace or serenity where you're just going to, and you don't have to abandon who you are and what you do to just exercise the back brain. It doesn't matter what your job is. You don't have to leave it. You don't have to do something spiritual. You don't have to do something what would be some like charitable thing. You don't have to do anything but live where you're at. Learn how to trust yourself more. Learn how to trust and let go of things better, and learn how to exercise from the bigger mind, the back brain, subconscious wisdom, all these other things. And then just know you're going to have humanness. Don't beat yourself up over it. The humanness is designed to be there. We need humanness to exist. We can't ever escape it. And that humanness is always going to have some level of fear, doubt, worry, pain, struggle. But at what level? Does it consume you? Does the grind consume you? And it did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that was your path to success. And it was a beautiful path to success. It's not wrong. It's not bad. But did the grind feel better than what you're experiencing now?
Oh, no.
So the grind and the humanness is meant to be that thing that is slow, sluggish, challenging, fueled by negative fuel, fear, doubt, worry, all these things. And it's heavy. Humanness is heavy. But it's also part of the contrast, because when you can tap into the back brain, when you can tap into the story of your life, when you can tap into a bigger flow that you're meant to be in, where love doesn't come at a cost, money doesn't come at a cost. You make $1,000, but now you got to fix your car. Now that's cost $1,000, which I used to live in that mindset with money too. When you can work on these spaces and realize that you don't have to live this in the suffering, the humanness is there to give you contrast and give you an opportunity to exercise your back brain. And that's the key. Allow humanness to be there. Know that there's going to be fear, doubt, worry, anxiousness, pain, struggle. Those things are okay. How long do you want to stay in it? How much do you want to consume you? And that's where the work is. The work is to put it in its place, to put it in its perspective. Because if you think about, like I think about when I was going through my last divorce, even being somebody who was on a really cool spiritual path at the time, there was a lot of emotion behind that. Not now, but back then. And if I put myself there, I can feel the emotion for sure. And some hurt and some anger and some heaviness. All that was there. I look back at it now, that's nothing. And we can look back, you, me, anyone listening can look back at whatever traumas or struggles and how big they were at the time and how insignificant they almost feel. And more than that, how much we've learned from those and grown from those. Positive is typically what we can see if we've learned from and grown from it, and how much smaller it was. What if we could live better that way today? Where the challenges of our day are still going to be challenges. We're still going to feel pain, struggle, fear, doubt, worry, whatever, or the grind. But what if we put it in a better place? What if we don't let it consume us? We let the front brain be what it is, but it doesn't consume and take up all of us. What if we can exercise the back brain to have a bigger control, and that when the human stuff comes, we have a better ability to manage it, and it doesn't take up as much space, or it's not as big. That's really the goal. And if you can get there on some level, if you can even grow from whatever percent you are to 50%, and you kind of in a even Steven, one time you get it, one time you don't, your life will be forever changed. And if you can get on the upside of that, and a majority of the time, you can do pretty well.
I think the upside, and now that you put it in those terms, the upside comes in when I had no idea what my truth was. Before we started talking. I mean, I was all over the place. I knew I wanted a business. I wanted to do this, and that, but I couldn't hold, if you ask me what my essence is, what my truth is, I wasn't able to verbalize it. I'm like, what do you mean? I have a business. Like, I'm paying the bills. Like, yeah. But taking it a level higher, it's. I got to a point where I was able to understand what my truth is, what honors me as a person, what honors me as an individual, and those around me, and it brought so much clarity. That was the first thing that kind of kicked in. The second thing was dealing with my humanness and those type of reactions, meaning the ego kicking in. Mm-hmm. So now I understand who I am. I understand, and it's never clear. We're evolving humans, and we've talked about this before, where, okay, this is my purpose right now. This is what I want to do. This is what I feel like. This is my space, but it doesn't mean it's going to be the same space in 5 years. So pretty much finding my point in time where I am, and then this is what honors me, and this is my truth here. Now, the first level for me was understanding that. And then the human side again would get in the way. I mean, we talked about it. How the heck do I get out of my own way, right? And taming the ego, and not really. I used to think that the ego was completely bad, and it was something that I had like, no, it's an ego thing. I can't, ego is bad. Now I feel like it is bad if I don't have a good sense of what my truth is, because then I can honor it. And it's just one of those things that comes in from the human side and kind of creeps up on me still, on the regular. And I have to take a step back, become aware, and then feel, okay, am I taking this reaction? Am I operating from a space of ego, or am I operating from a space of honoring myself and truth?
Yeah.
And that to me has been a world of difference in terms of clarity where my path is.
And that's a beautiful thing. And let's put a real example so people can even digest it better. So I talk to people all the time, especially when I'm in groups, and people have goals and intentions and everything else. And if you think about somebody who says, hey, I want to go on vacation, that's a goal and an intention. Well, why? Well, because I want to create happiness for my family. I want to give them this opportunity to feel like joyful and give them a great experience and let them really feel like they can let go. Sounds pretty great on the surface. But there's an ego there. Ego's not bad, ego is texture. Ego is an opportunity for us to qualify whatever our thoughts are from a bigger consciousness space to see, is it in alignment or not? And relatively, because once I get on vacation, then I can relax. Once I get on vacation, then I can enjoy myself. And I'm working so hard now, so then I can do this for me and for my family, and it'll be the happiness I'm looking for. Again, no big deal. On the surface, yeah, that sounds like makes sense deal. But what people are really saying and what they don't know, and this is where the ego can get us in trouble, is so you need that vacation to be happy. And you need that vacation to let go. I mean, you're saying that and you don't even realize you're saying that, because once I get on vacation, then I can relax. And there's so many people, and I talk about this a lot, the once I mentality. Once I have this much money in the bank, then I can let go of the stress and I can feel more secure. Once I pay off this debt, then I can finally feel free. Or once I this, or once I that, or once summer comes, then I can finally enjoy myself. One-side mentality is a really dangerous mentality, and so once I go on vacation, then I can finally enjoy myself, or finally feel like I can relax, or think about why I do what I do. Or then it becomes the answer to happiness. So what the people are really saying is, I can't be happy until X. And I need X in order to be happy, to feel freedom, to feel like I can provide for my family and give them joy and abundance. Meanwhile, we wait. And we don't do any of those things until that time. And think about how much we do. There are people who wait till retirement until they feel that one-time mentality of whatever it is that they're feeling. That could be a long freaking time. That sucks. And so what I tell people is, like, don't miss today. Sure, let's have goals. Let's go on vacation. Let's do these things, because why not? But if it's the answer, then it's from disempowerment. And so what you're talking about is changing out of ego into a deeper meaning. Now, you can still go on vacation. It doesn't mean, well, don't go on vacation because that's ego. No. Change what it means to you. First of all, how would you feel right now if you felt as free as you felt on vacation? And how can you live that way now? Well, the front brain's going to be like, can't compute. I have to go to 9 to 5 every day. Like, I've got kids and I got to do this and that. That's fine, but that's where the wrestling match is. That's where you get to go, no, let me use the back brain. Let me be creative. I'm alive. I've got these loving kids, or this family, or this husband or wife, or whatever else it is. And yeah, I've got to work. But you know what? I have this job that gives me the money that I'm going to then spend to go on this vacation. And yeah, it's tough at times, but that's an opportunity for me to find more strength, or believe in myself more, or love myself more. And you know what? If I really stop fighting with all of it, it's not as hard, and it's not as challenging, it's not as difficult as one might think, or at least my front brain thinks. And when we stop, it's just that simple wrestling match, and we don't wait, and we let go of the one-time mentality, and we start learning how to be happy, and that's work. That's where the work is, and that's where the training is. And it's kind of hard to do that on your own, which is where someone like me comes in, but people can do it on their own. And this is probably a good time, like, I'm so much about pro people and pro people supporting themselves, and I'm very grateful with the business I have, and I'm very busy. So I don't do these things to market myself or to get more business. I'm very fortunate. I have a very big clientele, and I have a lot of referrals that come in, and I'm booked decent out. Now, I'll take new business. I'm always happy to take new business. More people I get to share with, cool. However, I've built some stuff up on my website. There's a free content page, and it just has stuff. You don't have to put in an email address. You don't have to put anything, because I believe that even those tools and all the content that's on there, that is enough for anyone to get out of whatever suffering they're in. That's how powerful that stuff is. But you got to work at it.
Yeah.
People come to me because they like the customization, but that's some good stuff on there. There's some good juice on there, and there's always more that I'll put up. But the point is, what would it be like if we didn't have to wait to live today? Wait till the vacation, wait till the retirement, wait till the summer, wait till this, wait till the kids get this age, wait till I have this much money in the bank. Now, easier said than done, because the humanness is super strong. But that's where the work is, and that's where you can keep working on, looking for the positives, owning the positives, and then taking that bigger construct and then breathing it into the body. And that's where breath work, that's where brain training, that's where visualization work comes in, because we start thinking about how grateful we can be for the money we get, how excited for what the job provides us today, not tomorrow, not the next day, but right now, how much we can enjoy the drive, literal drive, and because we can use that time to be creative, to listen to some cool music or to do this or do that, whatever it is. Now I get the back brain involved, and instead of living in suffering, I live in action of choice. These are the simple, realistic, pragmatic, practical things, which is the things that you've done on some level in your own way, to use the back brain to create bigger action, to create the reality of your life. Not mystic, not spiritual, not some manifestation from something if you think it'll come, but by working the back brain, living life now, and then finding all the bits and pieces of your life that are real today, positive today, that you can make the most out of, and then breathing that into the being, and now living a life today. And then when you get to vacation, that's the icing on the cake. It's not an answer for you at that point. It's just the icing on the cake, and why not?
Mm-hmm. And you're also building that sense of expectation of good things coming your way. It's not living with the battle mentality of going at it by yourself, and then feeling like you have to put out every fire by yourself. And I come from that space, and I know how heavy it can be.
Yeah,
and,
all alone.
Yeah, and then you get, you have a couple of magical things that happen, and then you're set in a different space where collaboration is all around you, and then like you don't understand it, what's going on.
Yeah.
And it just takes you to that higher level, that higher space. But at the end of the day, it's in my experience is that I would not have been able to process that if I hadn't done or worked on that connection between my conscious and my subconscious, the front brain and the back brain.
100%.
And taking the pragmatic steps, which at the beginning, I mean, and you know this, at the beginning it felt kind of a little weird, a little off.
A little lame.
It's like, all right, fine, I'll do it. And then after a while, I just kind of started getting in the groove. But it wasn't about that particular moment and then, getting off the call and then that was it, putting it in the shelf. No, it was taking that and then using whatever happened there and then applying it and seeing it in my daily life. Mm-hmm. That's what really got me to the space where, okay, cool, this is real. This is this is how it really is. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you want to be blind intentionally to it, you're not going to see it, right?
100%. I was really good at that. I was a master at that.
Word. But once I saw the possibilities and felt the possibilities, felt literally my energy shift from one space to the other. It's undeniable. But again, you have to put in the work. And as an entrepreneur, man, we fall into very dark spots on a regular basis.
Sure.
On a regular basis.
But let's talk about, because you said this not alone feeling already twice in a beautiful way. Mm-hmm. And so let's really say something about that. So what if you're an executive assistant or the receptionist? You're not an entrepreneur necessarily. You don't have a staff beneath you. You don't have these resources you can pull from, but you do. And here's what I mean by that. The resources start from within. Your breath now doesn't just become this breath that is casual or automatic. Your breath now becomes a partner, a friend, in a couple ways. Scientifically, when you breathe in deeper through the nose and out through the mouth, you literally start to change the chemistry of your body. And if you do it enough times, it'll slow down the RPMs in the front brain. And it'll open up a bigger flow and energy connection through your body, just naturally. Because you start creating a rhythmic breath like when you sleep. So your body automatically starts putting it into a better state of functionality, just scientifically. And that's a friend. And when you're all alone in this world and you want one friend with you, your breath, if you start really looking and leaning on your breath to be that, it's amazing. Now, if you add to the meaning of your breath, that's a simple meaning, but a big one, a big deal. If you add to that meaning and you keep brain training in every time you breathe and you think about loving thoughts and you feel yourself let go and you feel the RPM slow down and you feel the flow open up, then your breath has double the meaning and then double the friendship and double the energy. That's just one. But then the body is a second friend. You're not alone. Your body is here. Like, we often discount our body, its power, what it's here for, how it's here for us. The body is a beautiful representation of unconditional love, because typically most people don't think about their toes or even say thank you to them. Why would we? It's not a practice. But they're the last thing to touch the ground every time you walk. And if you ever stub the toe, you know how much it plays a part in how you walk, right?
Then you remember.
Then you remember how important these toes are. But here they are every day. No matter how much we drink, no matter how much we eat or overeat or emotionally eat or whatever else that is, no matter how much we don't drink and far as water, enough water in our system, dehydrate, whatever, especially in Arizona, here we are not really recognizing the value of the body and what it really does for us. But man, let me tell you, just from a pure scientific standpoint, this body does a lot for you. It helps you breathe on your own, heartbeat on your own, flow of blood on your own. It doesn't. You don't have to think about these things. That's how much the body's got you. But then what if we took it one step further? What if we really started to create a friendship and the body became that friend that supports you? Because it already is. We just don't associate it. And if we can start associating it, now we got the breath and we got the body. And this body is a great teacher of unconditional love. And if we can feel the love our body has for us, we're loved, man. And maybe we had a bad childhood. Maybe we didn't have parents, or maybe our parents weren't very good. Maybe we did have great parents and we still feel like we're not loved because of a relationship here or friendships there or whatever. It doesn't matter. Point is, our body's love, and it's showing us that every day. If we could just tap into that, dude, now we got these two friends. Then we use the back of the mind, which is the third friend. That's like your wise friend who's like, you're struggling with some advice.
It's a smart dude in the group.
Yeah, smart dude in the group. And you're like, hey, man, what do I do about this? And you're like, hey, I got an idea. Remember this, remember that. They know your story. They know your history. They're like, dude, you figured this out so many times. Not this situation, but you figured out others. Remember that time you started a business, sold it, and didn't know what to do? Remember that time when you were in this beautiful career as a firefighter and then decided to abandon it and start a business with no business doing that? Didn't you figure that out? Didn't you sell it and do really well? Yeah. So what is this here, man? You got this. The back brain holds all that data. It's a really great wise sage, a wise friend. And if we can, now we got these three friends, and now we got a team. We're not alone. And it kind of gets me emotional because if you really think about this, again, everything I speak of is built in. I don't give you your breath. I'm not the coach giving you your body. I don't make toes for you so that you can then own them. This is all you. This is why what I do is so different. I truly feel like it because everything I do is hold a space for you to know how powerful you already are, for you to work. You don't need to be fixed. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. Yes, you have some humanness. We all do. Yes, our front brain's pretty active. Yeah, that's normal. No, there's no big deal. If you keep doing that, you're going to be fine. You'll figure life out. No problem. You don't need me. You don't need anyone. But you happen to have some friends. Want to use them? Let me show you what that looks like. Breath, body, back of brain. Let's start there. And then that's what you started to do. Begrudgingly at times, that's what you started to do. But normal begrudgingly. Man, I fought this a lot when I started down this path. And then once you start feeling the magic, which is what one of the things you said today, you go, oh, man, there's something to this. And there is. And then you start to lean into it. And man, that's when life changes tremendously.
The point of release, man, when to me releasing from from and I don't know what to even call this thought process, but it's whenever you feel like something is lame, something's not working. I'm holding on to something that I don't even know what to call, right? And I'm not letting this new thing come through, and it's keeping me from that whole experience. But when I started releasing from all that and really leaning into it, I mean, it's like the moment feels like fire. The moment when you're there, when you reach that level of connection with the energy that you have. I mean, we just had it 20 minutes ago. It feels like I mean, these were my words. I feel like I'm about to explode right now. And that's just how much energy feels like it's happening inside my body, right? Mm-hmm. Now, it's not just about that moment. It's not about reaching that, that moment and then moving on to a computer or whatever. It's what happens after. So like, okay, cool, that's tangible. I know I can get there. Now the switch happens inside my brain, and I can move on, and I know it's real. And I carry that energy with me throughout, the day, through, to my friendships, to my relationships, to my business, to the projects that I want to get into. Everybody around you, my kids, my family, everybody. And I mean, the result from that, and the impact that I'm having on those lives would not be the same if I wasn't putting in the work on this, space where I originally thought it was, it's because I'm not seeing it in one session, I'm not seeing it in 2 sessions.
Right, and it's not the light bulb.
Exactly, and I can't hold it.
Right.
But it's you have to give it some time, mm-hmm. and it's not because of the process or the system or any of that. It's because of you as an individual, I have to wrap my head around it, mm-hmm. and it's not really give it some time, but give me some time to come in and then be a part of it and then carry
make the shift.
And make that shift.
The last thing you just said weaved in that is, if we can take this then and build it into our everyday life. That's why you can be in any job, do this anywhere. It is not about going and doing some meaningful job or doing anything. Everything has meaning. It doesn't matter if you're drawing, it doesn't matter if you're filling out a form, it doesn't matter if you're answering the phone, if you're a heart surgeon or a lawyer or a mechanic, everything has meaning. The meaning is can you use this bigger connection and bring it into your everyday life? And that's when everything has meaning. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to change anything. If you can do this and bring this beautiful connection, this beautiful bigger brain and the friends that we now have into everyday life, your life just becomes magical, and you become a higher vibration, which is the last thing you said I was about to explode. Because when you can open up to this bigger functionality, remember, one of the things we're doing is tapping into energy. We're teaching you how to tap into theta and delta frequencies, which is the same place you tap into energy when you sleep during the day. And when you do that, you actually generate energy that can be used to reprogram the brain, or be used to share, or be used to do whatever you want. That's why you feel like you're about to explode when we did our session earlier, because you're generating a massive amount of energy that just is vibrating out of you. That energy is at a higher frequency. Higher frequency energies come with higher frequency thoughts. Love, joy, happiness, euphoria, creativity, possibilities, openness, these things that are really cool things that are associated with those. And those are all the emotions kind of that came along with that. Now imagine us taking that energy, that frequency, even if we didn't put the words to it, even if we just took the frequency as is, and we carried it into answering the phone or doing whatever the role is that we're doing. That's now the life I live. This work I do isn't even work. It's like I just get to sit, be myself, hold space for people, and watch the magic happen. And literally it is effortless for me. But I do my own work still every day, and I still have to counter humanness every day. And there is always going to be a human component to me that I'm going to have to continue to work and find balance with every day. And it'll show up subtly in some days and bigger in other days. And that's okay. There's times where I still can get look at somebody in judgment, whether they've cut me off or whether I'm feeling like somebody's going to try to beat me to the grocery store line, or I got some humanness. I'm an old competitor. I'm still an old warrior. I've got some of that stuff in me. But man, it takes up a tiny space now. And I get to laugh at myself and entertain myself along the way because of how much my humanness is funny to me now. And it doesn't own me. And I can course correct quickly. But more importantly, it's just having this great experience of pulling this energy through whatever it is you're doing, driving, simple task, big task, doesn't really matter. And if you can start to make this shift, people's lives will change. And everything today you heard, you can just literally do it on your own, whether it's just simply closing your eyes and breathing, kind of working on a front brain problem and trying to see what it feels like to exercise the back brain, picking up one of my free things on my website, which is alfuentes.com. And again, that's all just there. Like, you could do all of this.
There's really, really good sessions and videos and
yeah,
like
all kinds of stuff.
Step by step kind of stuff. It's I mean, that's it's an amazing website.
Some of it's practical, some of it's more bigger thinking kind of things, bigger experiences. Some will relate better. There's a reset viz on there that could be really relatable to anyone right now. And there's other things where you can like breathe in the universe. Well, you'd have to play with that, figure out what that means to you. So there's things for everybody there, and it's kind of fun. But again, you got enough to do this on your own. And that's the biggest message I want to tell everybody today as we end this, is that you have everything you need. And any little bit of catalyst you could want, you can get easily on different places, as long as the people you're getting it from is holding a space of empowerment and not trying to get you, not trying to be their answer, not trying to be your answer. And that's why I market my stuff, because I know that stuff on my website really holds a space for people to own themselves, not for them to get hooked on me or get hooked on some coach being their answer, because that's never the case, and that's not, because you got to lift the weights if you want the muscles. So I like referring my stuff because I just know it's good content, because it's come from intention, it's come from people being self-empowered. And so, if you find it other places where it's truly that intentional, where they're not trying to be their answer, some book or some system isn't trying to be your solution, it's built-in self-empowerment, then go with it. But that stuff does that. You have everything you need. You don't have to abandon anywhere you're at. Step into it, enjoy it.
So there you guys have it. This is Al Fuentes. You can find him on Instagram at the.alfuentes, and also go to www.alfuentes.com. He's got a lot of stuff on there for you guys, resources, and really the biggest message, the biggest walkaways is to choose life and live life from a space of joy and abundance as you go through it. So you just got a backstage pass to the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Make sure you follow us on YouTube and iTunes, and check out our website at ceopulse.com. Stay tuned, stay focused, you got this.